All right, so are you ready to dive deep? Today, we're tackling something we all deal with every single day. Food.
Sounds delicious already.
Well, hold on, because we're going way beyond just what tastes good. We're talking about how what we eat is totally connected to how it's made and what our, well, guts think about it all. Ever noticed how it seems like everyone's got digestive issues these days?
It really is pretty common, isn't it? It almost makes you wonder why, with all the food choices we have nowadays compared to any other generation, so many people still have trouble with digestion.
Yeah, right. It's like we've got overflowing grocery store aisles, but maybe all this abundance comes with a hidden cost.
Exactly. There's got to be more to the story.
And get this, we're even going to look at some ancient stories like, the feeding of the 5,000. For real, we're going to see if they hold some clues about food and, get this, community.
Oh, that's an interesting angle. You know, those old stories, they're like these pieces of cultural DNA, right? You find these amazing insights hidden in there that are still relevant today.
All right, so picture this. That super soft white bread. You know the one, right?
Oh, yeah, I can practically taste it.
Well, turns out it's like the perfect example of how modern food processing can kind of, I don't know, like sanitize our food.
It's true. When they process grains, they strip away the bran and the germ to make that white flour.
So what's the big deal?
Well, that's where most of the good stuff is. The fiber, the vitamins, the minerals, all gone.
Proof.
Pretty much. You're left with calories, sure, but it's like, imagine getting a letter that's just the envelope, no message inside.
Oh, I get it. So we're getting quantity, but not the good stuff, the quality.
Yeah.
But wait, isn't bread fortified to make up for all that lost stuff?
Yeah, some nutrients are added back in, but it's like, is it really the same? I mean,
Mhm.
some folks argue that those synthetic vitamins aren't absorbed by our bodies as well as the natural ones. And then there's the whole issue of pesticides like glyphosate being sprayed on wheat.
Glyphosate, right? That's a big one. Lots of people are concerned about how it might be affecting our gut health.
Yeah, and there's research suggesting that glyphosate might mess with the balance of bacteria in our gut, which is actually super important for our overall health.
So maybe that quick grab-and-go sandwich isn't doing our stomachs any favors.
Maybe not.
And it's not just bread, right? It's like we're surrounded by processed foods that are supposed to make life easier, but could actually be messing with our bodies in ways we don't even fully understand.
Right. A lot of these foods fall into a category called ultra-processed. Think about all those foods with ingredient lists a mile long, full of artificial flavors and all these things our ancestors wouldn't even recognize.
Like what? Give me an example.
Like, you think emulsifier.
Emulsifiers. That sounds like something out of a chemistry lab. What even are they?
They're added to foods to improve the texture and prevent separation. But some research suggests they might mess with the mucus layer in our guts, which could cause inflammation.
Wow, it's kind of wild how something that seems so small could have a huge impact. It really makes you think twice about everything you eat. So if processed foods are kind of the villain in this story, are things like probiotics the heroes?
Probiotics are definitely popular, but to get the full picture, it helps to look back at how our ancestors approached gut health.
You mean before we had all those fancy probiotic supplements?
Exactly. They didn't have pills, they had fermented foods.
Oh yeah, bring on the kimchi and the kefir.
Exactly.
It sounds way more appealing than swallowing a pill, but really, is it that effective?
Well, these foods are naturally full of those good bacteria, but they also provide prebiotics.
Prebiotic.
Yeah, that's the fuel those good bacteria need to flourish. It's like giving them an army and all the supplies they need to win the battle.
Oh, so instead of just dropping them in and hoping for the best, it's about creating a welcoming environment for those good bacteria.
A perfect way to put it. It begs the question, though, maybe focusing on eating naturally fermented foods is a better, more holistic way to take care of our gut health in the long run.
Okay, I'm definitely intrigued. So maybe we need to rethink our approach to gut health. But before we get too far down that road, let's talk about another food that's always in the news. Gluten. Is it really as bad as everyone says it is?
That's a great question. And honestly, the answer isn't just a simple yes or no. To really understand it, we need to look back in time.
Okay, history lesson time. Let's hear it.
All right, so ancient wheat, like einkorn and spelt, had way less gluten than the wheat we eat today.
Why is that? Did those ancient people have something against gluten?
Not really. It's just that those ancient wheat varieties weren't bred for high yields like modern wheat.
So we basically traded digestibility for quantity.
Yeah, something like that. And it's not just about the wheat itself. Our ancestors didn't just grind it up and bake it. They used these traditional fermentation techniques, and those techniques took time.
Like how much time are we talking?
Imagine bread dough rising slowly for hours, even days.
Wow, that's commitment.
It was a whole process. And that slow fermentation breaks down gluten, which could make it easier to digest. Compare that to today's methods where they use these rapid rise techniques.
And let's not forget all those chemicals and synthetic yeasts they use in some breads these days. Could it be that those are the problem, not gluten?
It's an interesting theory, for sure. It makes you realize we need to look at the whole picture, not just focus on one ingredient.
Okay, you've officially got me rethinking my relationship with bread. Maybe a nice, slow-fermented sourdough is the way to go.
There's a reason those traditional foods have stuck around for so long. They're not just delicious, they're full of wisdom.
Speaking of wisdom, let's talk about how our ancestors actually ate. We're so used to grabbing a quick bite on the go, but I bet mealtime was a totally different experience back then.
It was. Meals weren't just about refueling. They were events, social experiences, bringing people together.
It wasn't just about what they ate, but how they ate. That's fascinating. But I gotta ask, wasn't eating together back then also out of necessity?
Yep.
Like a way to make limited resources last longer?
Definitely. Sharing food ensured everyone got their fair share, but it also encouraged people to eat mindfully, slowly, and be more aware of their bodies, prevent overeating.
And probably a lot less scrolling on phones during meals.
Exactly. Plus, eating together meant being exposed to more variety in their diets, which we now know is great for our gut microbiome.
So resource efficiency, mindful eating, dietary variety, all built into this idea of communal eating.
Pretty amazing, right? It's a holistic approach that, well, modern society seems to have lost touch with.
I know I'm definitely guilty of a mindless meal in front of the TV every now and then. It's like our modern lifestyle is constantly working against us.
It can feel that way sometimes.
But speaking of traditional ways, I got to ask about those slow-cooked meals, like the ones our grandmothers used to make. Is there really something special about them beyond just the nostalgia?
Absolutely. Those slow cooking methods were often incredibly gut healing. Take bone broth, for example.
Bone broth, yeah, it's everywhere these days.
And for good reason. It's packed with collagen and gelatin, which can help soothe and heal the lining of your gut.
I've heard it's good for your joints, too. It's like a multitasker.
It is. And it's full of amino acids like glutamine, which are key for maintaining a healthy gut barrier.
A healthy gut barrier. Okay, that sounds pretty important.
It is. It keeps harmful things from leaking into your bloodstream and causing inflammation.
Okay, I'm sold. Bone broth's going on the shopping list. It's wild to think our ancestors understood this link between food and well-being way before we had science to prove it.
Isn't it amazing? They watched, they learned, and they passed that knowledge down.
All right, now for a bit of a curveball. Let's talk about the story of the feeding of the 5,000. It's usually seen as this big miracle, a display of divine power.
It's definitely a powerful story, interpreted in so many ways over time.
Exactly. But I can't help but wonder if there's another way to look at it, like one that speaks to our modern-day struggles with food waste and sustainability. What do you think?
That's a really interesting thought. You know, the story definitely puts a big emphasis on sharing rather than hoarding. And remember, back then, food preservation techniques were essential.
Right, they were fermenting fish, preserving wine, drying fruits and vegetables, all these ways to make a little food go a long way.
Absolutely. Those techniques weren't just about avoiding spoilage, they were about being resourceful and using everything they had.
What if the real message isn't about literally multiplying food, but about the power of community, of making sure everyone has enough?
Now that's thought-provoking. It really aligns with a lot of cultural values. Making the most of what you have, not being wasteful, and helping each other out.
It definitely puts a new spin on the story, doesn't it? Like somewhere along the way, maybe we lost sight of those basic values.
It's possible. Maybe as we moved to these big industrial food systems, the focus shifted away from sustainability towards just producing more and more.
So instead of seeing the miracle as this amazing act of resourcefulness, we started to see it as a demonstration of mass production.
It's an interesting perspective. It makes you think about how our food systems have shaped the way we understand food and its role in our lives.
And that's a great place to leave it for now.
It really is amazing how these stories from so long ago still make us think about our relationship with food today.
I know, right? It's like those ancient stories are little time capsules, just packed with wisdom, waiting for us to unpack them. We were just talking about how the meaning of stories like the feeding of the 5,000 might have changed along with our food systems. What do you think happened?
Well, I think as societies moved away from more traditional localized food systems and shifted toward these huge industrial agriculture systems, the focus changed too. Instead of focusing on sustainability and being resourceful, it became all about abundance and just producing as much as possible.
So it's like, instead of seeing the miracle of feeding the 5,000 as this incredible act of making the most of what they had and everyone working together, it turned into this idea that we can just make more, more, more.
Exactly. And that shift in how we see things, it really reflects this rise in consumerism, this idea that more is always better. It's like we forgot about the how and the why of feeding people and just focused on the amount.
So it's not just that our food systems changed, but the way we think about food changed too. I wonder, has that impacted how we see the role of food in our lives?
That's a big question. Have we lost touch with that deeper meaning of food? You
Mhm.
know, food as this thing that connects us, that nourishes us, that sustains us.
It's so easy to get caught up in the convenience and all the food choices we have today. Like, we go to the grocery store and forget that food is more than just something to keep us alive. It's a part of our culture, our traditions, even our spirituality.
Absolutely. And that's why it's so valuable to look at traditional food practices. They remind us that food is something to respect, to savor, to share.
I'm thinking about things like fermentation. It's a slow, careful process. Or families getting together to cook a meal. These traditions connect people with their food in a way that we don't really see anymore.
Exactly. It's about taking the time, being present, and appreciating the nourishment that food gives us. And not just for our bodies, but for our minds and spirits too.
I love that. Food is nourishment for the soul. But honestly, our world is so fast-paced, I sometimes wonder if there's even room for those traditional ideas anymore.
It's definitely a challenge, but we don't have to go all the way back, right? We don't all have to suddenly become sourdough experts or kombucha brewers.
But maybe we can borrow some of those traditional ideas and find ways to make them work in our busy lives.
Exactly. Small changes can make a difference. Maybe you start by adding one new fermented food to your diet each week, or maybe you decide to cook a slow-cooked meal every Sunday.
Ooh, a Sunday supper tradition, I like that. Or even just try to eat more mindfully. Put the phone down, really taste your food, be present while you're eating.
Those small steps really can add up, not just for us, but for our communities and the planet too.
It's like stepping away from that I need more, more, more mentality
Mhm.
and remembering that there's already so much abundance around us.
Exactly. Food is a gift, something to cherish and share, not just something to consume.
Okay, so all this talk about community and sharing makes me want to go back to that story of the feeding of the 5,000. We talked about the traditional religious interpretation, and we
Yeah.
talked about the sustainability angle, but there's this other layer that really speaks to me. It's that idea of community, of making sure everyone has enough.
Absolutely. That message of sharing and looking after each other, that's powerful. And we see it in cultures and religions all around the world. It's this understanding that we're all connected and we need to take care of each other.
Exactly. And with everything going on in the world today, all the inequality, food shortages, people struggling, it feels like that message is more important than ever.
It's a good reminder that we're not meant to do this alone, you know? When we work together and help each other out, we're stronger.
Those are definitely words to live by. But with these big, huge problems like hunger and inequality, it can feel overwhelming. What can one person even do to make a difference?
You know, it really does start with those small acts of kindness, being generous, supporting local farmers, giving to food banks, volunteering at soup kitchens. Those are all real, tangible ways to help.
And even just sharing a meal with someone who's struggling,
Yeah.
right? Just reminding them that they're not alone and that we're all part of this bigger community. We've covered so much in this deep dive. Modern food, ancient wisdom, the real meaning of food. I think we've busted some myths, uncovered some truths, and hopefully given everyone some food for thought, so to speak.
And we're really just getting started. There's still so much to learn and explore when it comes to our relationship with food.
So where do we go from here? How do we take all this information and turn it into something we can actually do?
That's a great question, and it's exactly what we're going to talk about next. We're going to look at some practical things you can do to take care of your gut, reconnect with those traditional food practices, and build a relationship with food that's healthier, more sustainable, and more enjoyable.
Stay tuned, folks. This deep dive is about to go even deeper. Welcome back. We've gone from modern grocery stores to ancient kitchens, exploring the fascinating world of food.
And now it's time to answer the big question.
What can we actually do with all this knowledge?
It's easy to feel overwhelmed, right? Like we've been bombarded with information.
Totally. It's not about becoming a food guru overnight. It's about finding those little things we can change to have a better relationship with food.
Exactly.
So let's get practical. First up, our guts. They've been patiently listening this whole time.
Right. Well, remember all those tasty fermented foods we talked
Oh
about?
yeah, kimchi, sauerkraut, kefir, yogurt, sourdough.
They're not just delicious, they're packed with those good bacteria. Even adding a little bit to your diet can really help your gut microbiome.
I'm thinking kimchi on my eggs, a swig of kefir at breakfast. Easy. But for those of us who are new to this whole thing, where do we start?
Start with something that sounds good to you, maybe a yogurt you already like, or be adventurous and try some kimchi. Don't force it, let your taste buds lead the way.
And while we're talking gut health, can't forget fiber. It's like a feast for our gut microbes.
Right. Fiber is a prebiotic, it feeds the good bacteria. A happy gut is a diverse gut.
So fruits, veggies, beans, whole grains, all those things our ancestors ate all the time. Makes you wonder if they were onto something, huh?
They probably were, but let's think bigger than our plates for a minute. Where our food comes from, that matters too. Supporting your local farmers, that's a big one.
Like going to farmers markets. It's not just a trend, it actually helps.
It makes a huge difference. It's about putting your money where your mouth is, choosing food that's grown in a way that's good for the environment and supports your local community.
Farmers markets, maybe joining a CSA, things like that. And it makes you more aware of what's actually in season, right? Instead of expecting every fruit all year round.
Exactly. And speaking of awareness, food waste, that's a huge problem.
It's bad for the planet, and it just feels wrong. We should all be doing more to cut down on it.
Absolutely.
But let's be real, life gets busy, leftovers end up forgotten in the fridge.
Wow.
Any tips beyond just pay more attention?
Definitely. Plan your meals ahead of time. If you know what you're making, you're less likely to overbuy. And get creative with those leftovers. Turn that roast chicken into soup or tacos or a frittata. Composting is another great way to give those scraps a second life.
Composting, I've always been a little intimidated by it, but maybe it's time to finally try it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move from the fridge to the kitchen. We talked about all those old school cooking methods our ancestors used. Do those really have a place in our modern world?
Of course. Slow cooking, fermenting, soaking, sprouting, they not only create amazing flavors, but they make the nutrients in food easier for our bodies to absorb.
Wait, slow cooking can actually make food more nutritious. How does that work?
Think about it. Heat and time can break down certain compounds in food, making those nutrients more bioavailable. And with fermentation, those good bacteria are doing the digesting for us.
It's like having an army of tiny chefs working in your gut. I'm sold.
But I gotta admit, recipes that talk about culturing and brining kind of scare me. Where does a beginner even start?
Don't worry, it's not as complicated as it sounds. There are so many resources out there. Start with a simple recipe, maybe sauerkraut or yogurt, and just try it out. You might surprise yourself and love the process.
I like that. It's not just about what you make, but how you make it. Okay, last but not least, mindfulness.
Oh yeah, in a world that's always rushing us, it's easy to just eat without thinking, without really enjoying the experience. Slowing down, appreciating the taste and the texture of your food, being present while you're eating, it can really transform your relationship with food.
It's like we've forgotten where our food comes from. We're so used to just grabbing whatever's quick and easy. How do we bring back that mindfulness? Start small. Put your phone away at meal times. Take a few deep breaths before you start eating. Really notice the colors and the smell of your food. Use all your senses. Appreciate the nourishment you're getting.
It's like turning a meal into a mini meditation.
Mhm.
And I think this ties back to what we were saying about community earlier. Throughout history, food has always brought people together.
Absolutely. Sharing meals, teaching each other recipes, celebrating with food. These are all ways to nourish our souls as well as our bodies.
So maybe it's having friends over for a potluck, volunteering at a community garden, or just having conversations about food and where it comes from.
Exactly. Build those connections. Remind ourselves that food is more than just fuel. It's a way to create community and spread joy.
So there you have it, a whole toolbox of things you can do to have a healthier, happier, more sustainable relationship with food.
Remember, it's not about being perfect. It's about trying. Experiment, enjoy the process, and savor all the deliciousness that's waiting for you.
And as always, keep those minds curious. Explore, share what you learn, and let's build a world where food nourishes our bodies, our communities, and our planet.
Until next time, happy eating.